Good afternoon. In today's In the Meantime, I would like to talk about a game I call the triangle game. But first, by way of introduction, after I began to write this column, I heard the head of the police union in Minneapolis declare that, quote, George Floyd had a violent criminal record, to which I thought, that's irrelevant and changing the subject. The point is that George Floyd was human, and no human deserves the treatment he received. And then I thought about the Samaritan on the road to Jerusalem, who was beaten and left for dead on the roadside. The priest, of course, walked by. They were on their way to the temple, and the Samaritan was the one who paid for and cared for this poor man who had been beaten. Which character do you choose to be? The police union head or the Good Samaritan? Back to the triangle game. A long time ago, in a galaxy far away, a very wise priest shared his summary of the main game that people play. I call it the triangle game. You cut an equilateral triangle out of cardboard, maybe 12 inches on the side, put a push pin in the middle of it so that you can spin it. Label each vertex of the triangle respectively as victim, rescuer, and oppressor. Pick any issue, such as climate change, human trafficking, freedom of speech, marital conflicts, theft of intellectual property, fair trade, dissemination of false information, political protest, and so forth. Seat 3 people around the table with the triangle in the middle. Spin the triangle, and each person gets to take one of the roles indicated by the vertex. For any given issue or situation, that vertex can represent an individual person, a group, a concept, or a physical thing. The stories of the Old Testament fall into this category, where God takes the role almost all the time of rescuer. And who is not familiar with family triangles, where the parents make the child the victim and one parent takes the role of oppressor and the other is the rescuer? Or the family generational games, where the victim in one generation becomes the oppressor in the next. And then think about the grand political wars where each political party paints the other as the enemy, and only that party has the solution and the ability to rescue the nation. Sadly, we also see these dynamics at play sometimes in the selection of a rector or a bishop. In activist battles over the environment, one side imagines the other as the archenemy. The environment is the victim. Religions and Christian denominations duke it out in this way. Same thing in politics, only in that case the American people are the victim of a battle between oppressor and rescuer political parties. As I surveyed the landscape of triangle games everywhere, a new insight came to me this week. And these games are self-perpetuating. They will never end. Only the roles change from time to time, but not much else. Pondering this insight led me to despair. I wondered, will humankind ever improve, or are we doomed to battle each other for the next 10,000 years? After watching 50 years of racial injustice following civil rights movements of the 1960s and 70s, I can see that issues such as racial violence, family violence, racial justice, that is, political instability, wars, corporate takeovers, even megachurch growth, are all just sad examples of the triangle game. But Jesus shows another way, a way off the triangle. Life is not intended to be a struggle. God showed us that in the Garden of Eden. Life is not about winning, even though a big church in Tulsa tells its parishioners that, quote, God helps you win. Life is not about winning and losing. If you understand that everything you have and everything you are belongs to God, and that if you understand that God created everything right up to this very minute, and that God can take it all away in a heartbeat, what do you have to lose? And what do you have to fear? What you think you have is not yours anyway. The story of Jesus teaches us to refuse to play the triangle game. Quit thinking in terms of winning and losing, of fear and domination. In the mathematics of game theory, the triangle game is called a zero-sum game, because if one player wins, another player loses. What Jesus teaches us is not a pathetic human game of conquest and struggle. It is nothing other than life, freedom, and love. It is about sacrifice and giving and understanding. It is not about going to heaven and living for eternity, because heaven and eternity are compressed into this particular moment right now. Live without fear. Give. Sacrifice. And you will have eternal life. There's a really practical aspect to this theology that is seldom taught or mentioned. I want you to take a person that you cannot stand, you dislike them intensely, someone you despise, someone you wish bad things in your worst thoughts for. Hold them in your heart for a minute and imagine having a heart-to-heart conversation with them. Imagine loving them. And now remind yourself that the person you are envisioning is simply doing the best they can with what they have. And when you practice this kind of thinking, you become empathic. That is, you're beginning to understand someone else's life and their feelings from their perspective. Life, so much in life, you get to choose. You can choose to play the triangle game that never ends and which you will never win. You can close your eyes with your dying breath and wonder why it was all such a struggle. Or you can take the hand of Jesus and give to others. You can live a life of compassion and empathy. Your anger will dissipate quickly. Your kindness and thoughtfulness will become how people see you. You will not fear loss nor death. In your final moments, you will know that your life had meaning and purpose, and that you helped make the world a better place. And you will live forever in that moment.